Go back to the calls.
Hey, look out the window.
Welcome to my party, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. This is my chance to reconnect with the girls.
Did Mom shoot some of these?
This little bump right here, that's you.
I still miss her every day.
What's that? There's something crossing up ahead. Keep the girls in the car.
Stay in the car, okay? Just stay in the car. What happened? Diabolo? Okay, what's he saying?
Diabolo means devil.
I've never seen anything like this. Multiple attacks without eating its prey.
Lions don't do that. At least no lion I've ever seen.
Go back to the calls.
Dad, please!
Man, you gotta drive, you gotta drive! Drive! Breathe. Breathe. Slow down.
We're in his territory now.
It's the law of the jungle. It's the only law that matters.
Dad, they've got guns.
Shouldn't be out here.
What are you doing? Stop! I've got to get my girls out of here. I need you to trust me right now. I'm coming back.
Don't move, okay?
Where did he go?
Here we are back for Beast, sir.
Thank you,
love
man.
this character.
Nice to be back with you.
Awesome. So let's kick things off. Tell my readers, obviously they haven't seen the film like most of us journalists. Tell us about your character, Martin, and what was it about this project, this script, this character, when you read him on paper that compelled you to want to play him?
I love the idea of the level of masculinity he has and heart combined. So it's kind of like the best version. You know, he's kind of the good uncle to the girls in the movie, and he's the good friend of Nate, who's played by Idris. And just that idea of playing a character that's masculine enough not to be, but not toxic, and hard and soft enough not to be like running away from danger. It's cool, you know, that you can still see men like that on screen. It's kind of cool.
So in terms of your process, how did you prepare to occupy the headspace of a guy like this? I mean, did you pick the brain of any wildlife biologist for this role?
I didn't specifically start on this movie. I've over the years engaged with a few different people in the profession. Specifically, I know a guy called Kevin Richardson, the Lion Whisperer. You can see his stuff online. He's probably the most famous guy in the world in terms of working with lions and being able to do the kind of scenes. He's actually the guy that Ryan, the writer, was inspired by for my character. So I've known about sort of, you know, from spending time with Kevin, the principles of what he's using to engage the lions the way he is. And just growing up in South Africa and spending time on game farms and getting used to wildlife, it was kind of just in me growing up, you know, over the years.
So, I mean, it's obvious by the trailer what we can expect. But for those living under a rock and they don't get it, tell us about, like, how would you describe the dynamic between your character, Martin, and Idris's character, and tie into that, you know, what can you tease us about some of the challenges and obstacles they have to overcome together?
Well, you know, Idris plays a doctor. He comes from the United States. He is returning, who wants to show his girls Africa. I've grown up in Africa. We've known each other since we were kids when he was out there. It's an interesting dynamic because the black guy's coming home, the white guy's actually living in Africa. So I like kind of turning that on its head as well. You know, Idris is coming back and has to, as a doctor, has to basically learn how to use his, he has to use at times his doctoring ability to help me. And I have to use my experience in the bush to help him. And both of us just have to try and keep the girls alive, you know, but that's particularly his job. And it's challenging. we end up seeing what happens, you know, the analogy I think in the film is really, there's a very obvious metaphor of trying to protect family in the face of beast, as it were, you know, and metaphorically there's all sorts of beasts, and this family's been through a traumatic experience before with the loss of their mother before they come out on this trip, and he's now trying to be the best father that he can be, and protect them.
This film reminds me of the fear that I have of bears, and it got me to thinking, what would I do, what could I do if I was in a similar encounter with a bear as we see played out in this film? So my question for you is, does this film play on any fears you may have when it comes to potentially fatal encounters with wildlife?
I have very few fears of wildlife. I ended up cycling on a mountain bike a few times through the reserve. It's called Baobab Private Nature Reserve. It's got 3,000-year-old trees in it. It's got all of the animals. It had the lions kept away in a different section of the reserve, but all the others were there. But I discovered doing that, I'd never done that before. It's very rare that you'd be allowed to do such a thing. Any wild animal, when you by yourself in actual African bush, can be a terrifying experience. Like a herd of buck that come rushing through will terrify you. And you just have an innate sense of how vulnerable you are when you actually in an environment that we've all come from at one point or another. But I established through stories that they told me on the farm a fear of the black mamba snake, because it's an aggressive snake that will just attack you. Like most snakes will not necessarily just attack. So that was the closest I came. After that, I was like, this is a snake that will stand up, and when it bites you, it's at head height, because they're all very long usually when they're fully grown. So it comes up to head height and then decides it's gonna bite you. I mean, a snake looking at me head height, I'm just like, that's too much for me. I got charged by a black rhino that almost got me, which was terrifying, but I'm still not really scared of the rhino in the way that the black mamba just, I don't want to know about the snake, man.